Welcome, everyone. I'm Joan Spurl. I work for the Literacy Cooperative as um, director of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. The program Imagination Library is available where there's a local organization like ours, finding the funding and then making the program available and managing the program in a particular area. So we do Cuyahoga County. We are so blessed in Cuyahoga County to have an incredible an array of library systems, including the Cuyahoga County Public Library System, which we are all able to utilize. And they have great programs for families, for children, for adults, for the whole family, for babies, for toddlers, kindergarten club. They have a toy bank for you to access, all kinds of things to support your family's learning and growth. So, and one of the wonderful people we have on today is Maria Trevisano, who's going to share her expertise with you with simple tips and strategies. Whenever we're providing programs for families, we want to make your life less stressful around learning and development and reading and enhancing your child's literacy and language environment and experiences. So Maria is going to share some of those with you tonight. I was saying earlier, if you already know everything she shares, then you can just leave tonight feeling really good and affirmed, and maybe just do it more. And if you're learning something new, we're going to want to hear that from you in our survey that we'll ask you to complete. We'll have a survey link later. I always, even though I'm a former kindergarten teacher, I taught kindergarten for 10 years and preschool, and at the college level too, I still feel like I always learn something new from a different presenter. So I hope you enjoy this evening's program. Maria, I'm going to let you tell them your title and your background, and I'm going to go off camera and mute myself. And a reminder, everyone, you can put Q&A in the Q&A section. We'll have the presentation by Maria, and then I'll be able to read questions to her and field those later, and we will finish by 7:30 tonight. So thank you all and welcome. And thank you, Maria, for being here.
I was just going to thank you, Joan, and the Literacy Cooperative for having me on tonight. It is exciting for me to get to talk to parents. I was telling Joan that most of the time I talk to other librarians when it comes to this stuff. I talk to parents a lot too, because I am the family engagement specialist for Cuyahoga County Public Library. And that means that I am overseeing countywide the programs where we are trying to engage the entire family, not just the child and not just the parent. And so that is a wide range of things. And right now it is very heavy in early childhood. And I am a children's librarian by trade, have worked in the library since I was 16. I've actually been here for 31 years, which seems insane. But as I tell everybody, I was 16. And that I've been a children's librarian since 2007. And so I am very excited in this new role. It's been about 2 years where I get to really look at the big picture. And I get a chance also to be a trainer for Ohio Ready to Read. And Every Child Ready to Read is the framework that librarians use, at least in our system, for our story times. And what we are trying to do is really impart what we are doing and why to the caregiver who is coming with the child so that you can replicate it at home. We see you for a half hour a week in story time if you come to one, but you see the child every day, all day. And so that is why we are trying to tell you some of the things that we have learned when it comes to early literacy so that you can continue to do it and why we do what we do. So that's really what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to have a lot of books here as examples, and I'm using books from Dolly Parton's Imagination Library in the hopes that if you came here, you are through the Literacy Cooperative, you're already signed up. And if so, you might have some of these books, and this might give you a new way to use them. So let's get started. whether your child is 4 days old or 4 years old, it is never too early or too late to start preparing them to read and to learn pre-reading skills. We're talking about early literacy skills, and what we're discussing right now is not really sitting down and teaching a child to read. It is teaching the child all of the things that they need to know so that when they come into kindergarten and the teacher tries to teach them to read, that they are there and ready to learn. So they have all the little bits and parts, so recognizing letters, knowing what sounds the letters make, knowing how a book works, knowing how stories work, that they have all those little bits and parts so that when they get instruction, it clicks and that they are able to do it. And what we know about early literacy is that reading is an essential life skill. Our brain we use so many different parts of the brain to learn to read. Our brain is not evolved to learn to read. We have to teach it to read. You don't have to really teach someone to learn a first language or a language before the age of 7. After the age of 7, your brain changes a little bit, and that's a lot of science. But you don't have to teach people that. They hear it. They small children pick that up, but they're not going to pick up reading without building on these skills. So that is something that we have to look at. Learning to read begins at birth, and parents and caregivers are the best people to teach a child how to read. This is all backed by data. And I'm going to read something right now. The National Early Literacy Panel's landmark 2009 report, Developing Early Literacy, found that pre-reading and writing skills that are developed from birth to age 5 have a clear and consistently strong relationship with other literacy skills, with later literacy skills. But right now, the reason why I'm so grateful that Literacy Cooperative is doing something like this and why we try so much at our story times is because right now, kids are struggling when they get to school. And this is, I'm going to read the 2003 Ohio State report card, but this is pretty standard throughout the nation. It's not just Ohio. Only 35.4% of Ohio's children entering kindergarten in 2002 were demonstrating the skills and knowledge and abilities needed to handle kindergarten instruction. That is a sobering number. What's also sobering is that, according to Groundwork Ohio, 64% of Ohio's fourth graders are not demonstrating reading proficiency. That's the same number. It's the 35% that are reaching the skills. If you flip that and just do the opposite of it, you're saying 64% aren't reading. So it doesn't, we're not moving it from kindergarten through age 4 through grade 4. We have to start it early. And that's difficult news, but the good news is that it is changeable. And it is changeable when it starts in the home. And the reality is that you are your child's first and best teacher. You have been their teacher since the day they were born. You know your child best and know what will work for them better than anybody. You are in the best position to make these changes and to make them ready to read. Kids have short attention spans, right? You can do these activities for just short little bursts of time when they are interested. You can help your child learn in ways and at the times that are best for them. And you are a tremendous role model. If the child sees you read, if the child sees you write lists before you go to the grocery store, if they see you play with them, they will love to do what you do. They love to imitate you. They love to bond with you. And so you have the most clout in your child's life, and you can get them ready to read. And so we're going to introduce you to 5 easy practices, 5 simple practices that help children get ready to read. And these practices are talking, singing, reading, writing, and playing. And this is very simple. And the word practice is not used accidentally. When you practice something, you have to do it again and again and again to get better. And so these are things that you need to do with a child on a recurring basis, daily, to help them get ready to read, to help them practice their early literacy skills. These are the 5 easy things. They work with children from, birth and really through age 8. and beyond to support the early reading process. They can be done anywhere. They don't require special tools. They don't require a lot of money. They are just simple, basic things that you can do to prep your child for reading. Getting ready to read involves many different skills, and some kids, they go at different paces. Kids walk at different times, and they talk at different times. There is a continuum, so you just need to be steady with the practice. You can help your child learn important pre-reading skills that are appropriate for their ages. Don't push your child. The other part of this is that children have to think that reading is fun, that learning is fun. So again, when they're this young, their attention spans are very quick. If you start reading a book to a child and the child's not into it, you don't have to finish the book. We tell librarians this too. If the book is not working for story time, you don't have to finish it. You can move on to something else. If they want to play with something while you're reading a book and they're still listening, but they're doing something else, they're moving. They want to run around and dance around, but they're still listening to the book. That's okay. We don't want to push children and make them and turn them off to reading, turn them off to books, turn them off to learning. So these are things we want to get children to see as being fun. And that's what we are hopefully going to give you some concrete tips today, things that you can do. So I'm going to start by talking about talking. And children learn about language by listening and joining in conversation. Children learn how language works, how a sentence is constructed. We do this almost automatically until you learn it in grammar when you're older, right? When you're in grade school, that there's a subject, there's a verb, there's a predicate, there's all these different parts of speech. They have to be put together in a certain way in order for a sentence to make sense, in order for a sentence to have meaning. And children learn that by hearing conversation and hearing talk. They learn words and what words mean. They learn their vocabulary. And it's really interesting. The studies have shown that the amount of words that a child knows by the age of 3 can predict how well they're going to read for the rest of their lives. So if you think about it, it does make a amount of sense. A child isn't going to be able to read a word if they don't know what it is. They can't sound it out. They can't give it a meaning. So I always tell people to feed their babies words. Talk a lot. We call it parallel talking, where if you're grocery shopping and you're just talking to the baby, you're telling them what you're buying, you're telling them the colors, you're telling them all these different things so that they are hearing language and you are feeding them words. Use million-dollar words, more difficult words that are not actually, used frequently. Frequently would be a word that would be $1 million word. That means a lot. That's a different way of saying a lot. I laugh. My niece, who is now a freshman in college, I came in once and her uncle, I'm actually the mom's best friend, but her uncle is a math person and a genius. And I came in and she was building with blocks one day and I said, "What are you making?" And she says to me, and she's like 3 or 4, "I'm building cantilevers." Well, Aunt Maria didn't know what a cantilever was. It's like an overhang. I had no idea, but I was like, "Uncle Jonathan's been here, hasn't he?" And yes, he had been. Kids pick up on these things. If you introduce a word to them and you use it in a sentence, they will learn it so fast. It's amazing. Their brains are little sponges. So that's something that can really lead to comprehension when they're reading at a later time. Scientists have discovered that conversation between an adult and a child actually changes the child's brain. The fancy word for this is serve and return. So it's not speaking at a child, it's having a conversation with them. And you can start this before they're talking back. If you say something to a baby and you say it in baby talk, which is called parentese, and that's actually a thing that is helpful. And every culture does it, every language does it. It's really interesting. But you say, "Oh, look at the pretty baby. What are you playing with?" And baby shakes the rattle. And you say, "Oh, shake a shake a shake a shake a shake." And then they shake it again and you react. So it's showing them how conversation is and going back and forth. It actually changes the baby's brain. It makes the brain function at a higher level. So just engaging in conversation, that's really simply what it is with talking. And I do want to stress that if you are English as a second language family, use the language that is most comfortable for you. If you are completely fluent in English, that is okay too. But you know, the child needs to hear rich language. They need to hear how words are put together to create meaning. And if you're speaking in a language, I mean, if I was trying to speak in Spanish, which I took in high school and college, to a child, they're gonna learn first person present tense, really simple languages, because that's what I can do. They're not going to learn the richness that comes from a fluent speaker of a language. So please speak to the child in the language that you know best and speak often and frequently. It really does help them with pre-reading. Books can be amazing conversation starters. And I'm going to give a little example of that now. I'm going to stop sharing briefly so that I can show you. So this is a great book, Goodnight Gorilla. It is almost wordless. All it says is good night to all the different animals in it. And so you can have what we call a picture walk with your child with this book. So you can say, good night, gorilla, and you can show them the picture and you can ask them, oh, what is the gorilla doing? And have them have a reaction to it. And a reaction to that, you can ask them to kind of narrate what's going on. You can, as you go through the book, you can ask them what they think is going to happen next. That's called prediction. They do that in school when you get older. You can talk about different vocabulary. Good night, armadillo. Not every child, when you first read this book, will know what an armadillo is. So you can explain an armadillo is an animal that has like plates on the outside. It has hard skin. It rolls into a ball when it gets scared. So you can do a lot of different things just talking through a book. And you know what? You can do that with a book that has words in it too. You don't have to read the book word for word. You can look through the pictures, talk about the pictures, and have that child read it. It's another thing. If English is a second language in the library, we have world languages, but we can't carry every language that's spoken. So if you can't find books in the language that is best for you, you can do a picture walk and talk through it. I'm going to play a very short video that shows a man talking to his son, who is not talking back yet, but this is just going to give an example of how even with children who are not speaking yet, what you can do and why talking is very important.
All right, let's make some eggplant for lunch today. This right here is eggplant. See that? Eggplant. It's good. It's in a lot of Italian food. It's kind of squishy. Feel that? See? Oh, that's fun, huh? Eggplant. Gotta cut off the top. That right there we don't use. We can throw that in a little bowl. And then we cut it in half. So we have one onion. And now how many pieces do we have? 1, 2. You want to smell it? Smell it. Strong. Here, put this in the junk bowl. Put it in here. All right, good job. Don't forget this spot too. Get that spot. Get right there. Good boy. All right, all done. Finished. Yay!
Okay, I really love that video as an example of what you might be able to do and talk with a child who is not speaking yet back. Another thing that the father is doing that's just wonderful is that, oh, I'm sorry. I think I have to close off the next thing. I didn't realize it was going to do that. I did not know it was going to do that. I'm going to turn that whole thing off. Sorry about that. Okay. And now we'll go back. Okay. Well, we'll do a little itsy bitsy later too, actually. So that's kind of funny. But if you notice, another thing that the father really did that I think is great is he allowed his son to use other senses to learn things. So he had him touch the eggplant. He used the word squishy, and the child was able to actually, squish it and see what squishy meant. He allowed the child to smell the onion, which of course is a very strong smell. He involved the baby in cleaning up. So these are things that are very simple to do when you're cooking dinner anyway, right? You're going to cook dinner anyway, and the child can be there and can really learn about the world, learn some vocabulary, and learn how things work and what things mean just while you're doing a chore that you have to do anyway. And it is, make sure that children just have a lot of opportunities to talk to you. You can ask them about what they're drawing. You can ask them about what they're doing. If you have a pre-talk or you ask something, wait for some kind of reaction and then react to it. Ask things that are more than a yes and no answer. That instead of saying, do you like to color? You can say, what do you like about coloring? So one says yes, and the other one might tell you that they like to choose their crayons, or it allows them to say more. Taking turns and making connections. If you start talking to your children now and really listening to what they're saying back in return, imagine when they're a teenager, they know you listen. So that kind of bonding and stuff starts with talking and with conversation. So the next one, and this is my favorite one, people either love or hate this one, this practice, but the next one is singing. And songs are a very natural way to learn about language. Singing includes rhyming when we're talking about pre-literacy skills. And it's really about the child being very sensitive to the sounds and words, being able to hear. And the fancy word for that is phonological awareness. And that just simply means that a child can pick out the different sounds that they are hearing. So understanding when different words begin with that same sound. And I will tell you that the sound that in the letter that they are going to care most about is going to be that first letter of their name. So, you might have if we have a story time with a big mat that has the alphabet on it, and if you have two kids whose name begins with K, they're both going to want to sit on that K. That is their letter. They know what it sounds like. They know how it looks like, what it sounds like. And that is typical. But that is, hearing that initial sound, knowing that bat and cat and hat and sat rhymes. So singing helps with those abilities, which then helps with early readers. So, it helps them prepare kids to decode, print, and to hear these different sounds. I'm sure there's something in your life that you remember because you were taught to sing it. So Schoolhouse Rock made their living doing this, the 50 states and capitals, or how a bill became a law. You remember these things. You remember song lyrics, right? That you might, from your childhood. I'm the right age. New Kids on the Block was huge when I was in middle school. I remember the words to their songs. Have I heard them recently? No, but I could still sing them to you. It's very strong what you learn through singing. And why is that? Here's how it works. Songs help children develop listening skills and pay attention to the rhythms and the rhymes of spoken language. Clapping along to rhythms can help them break big words down into smaller bits. So lots of times, every syllable gets a note. So when you're singing, let's just do Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Twinkle, twinkle, twinkle has two notes. Sometimes you can clap along. Clapping along breaks down sounds and words. If you're teaching a brand new big word to your child, it might be helpful to clap out the syllables. Or a kid could, they love dinosaurs and they're into Tyrannosaurus Rex, but they're not exactly saying Tyrannosaurus correctly because it has so many different syllables in it. You can slow it down by clapping with them. Tyrannosaurus Rex. And you can do that with singing too. You can clap along with every syllable. They help children use new words, add to background knowledge. It involves both the right and left brain when you sing. And so does reading. Reading involves the whole brain. You also have to be able to track across the page. And so that requires both sides of the brain. So that is helpful. You can use music to focus kids' attention, to give them a break. There is a reason why, if you go to a story time, you most often see the librarian read a book, do a song, do a finger play, read a book. We break it up like that on purpose because little kids can't sit down for a long period of time. It helps with gross motor skills. So that means big motions that use big muscles. So balance and dancing and balance and dancing to music. These are all things that are helped through music. The skill of keeping a steady beat has to be acquired before age 7. So actually, and that's a lot like language acquisition, which is much more difficult after age 7. So there's this window to have rhythm, basically. And so music will help with that too. Music is math. There's rhythm, there's beats, there's whole notes, there's quarter notes, there's fractions, there's all these different things. And we're talking mainly about pre-literacy here, but pre-math, pre-numeracy is equally important for child success. So singing helps with that as well. It can also help music and finger plays that we do help with crossing the midline. I made an allusion to this before, but children, when they're reading, they have to read across the page. And that goes from the different sides of the body. And children have a hard time with that because we have 2 different hemispheres of our brain, and we do things differently on either side. So if you ever ask, a lot of finger plays do stuff in front of the midline or make you cross the midline, and that helps them be able to read across the page. So I'm going to give a little example of this. So if you do something like the wheels on the bus, it's right at the middle of your body. It's making them do things right in front. So you say the wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. You're doing that at the midline. And then the wipers on the bus go swish, swish, swish. That is crossing that midline. If you look at the toddlers, they're going like this. They won't do this. You can work on them doing this because they're going to need to be able to do this to read across the page. So that's just a little tip. I love that tip. When I learned it the first time, I was like, no way. I had no idea. And that's something that you can really easily do with your child that will help them be able to read across that page. So I also, let's see. So the next thing is about slowing down, and singing does slow down language. If I say, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, at a pretty normal pace, and then I sing it, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. That took a lot longer for me to sing than it did to speak. So it does slow down language for children so they can hear the different parts of words. So music is easy to incorporate throughout your day. I say, first of all, don't worry about whether you can carry a tune. I'm a decent singer, and people are all like, oh, well, that's because you can sing when I do story times. No, they really don't care that I'm singing. The child cares, even in my story time, if you are singing. you are the person who takes care of them. You're the one they care about. They want to hear it. It doesn't matter if you can carry a tune or not. So do not be shy about singing to your child. And there's a lot of things you can do. You can listen to children's music while you're driving in a car. You can sing along. Music can help with transitions. It can help curb negative behavior. So that's why there's a cleanup song, right? Clean up, everybody, everywhere. There's a reason we do a cleanup song. It helps kids transition. We sing a song at the end of story time that says goodbye so that they are prepared emotionally to leave. So you can do that when, if a child has a hard time leaving something, maybe try a goodbye song. It does help. And you can use music and rhymes to entertain while you're changing a diaper. You can also sing books. So there's sometimes, there are books that are for You Are My Sunshine. There are books on Wheels on the Bus. So you can use books to sing. You can also make up your own songs to books. And I don't know how many of you have ever seen Ludacris, the rap, Llama Llama Red Pajama. I recommend, if you have not seen it, that you Google it when this is over with. Because it is great. You can tell that he totally reads this to his children and he's made a rap to it. It's a lot of fun. And that is something that you can do. You can make up your own songs to a book and sing it with your child. It also, again, gross motor skills, curbs behavior, and it's just fun. Kids love songs. So again, don't be shy about how well you sing. Sing with your kids. Now, this might seem like the no-brainer, but reading together, the third practice is reading, and reading together with your children is the single most important way you can help them get ready to read. And this actually is something that I recommend if you have older kids as well. When they're still learning to read, still continue to read aloud to them. You'll hear a lot of elementary school teachers talk about fluency, and that is simply how smoothly a child is able to read. And if you are able to provide them a model of fluency, or even, audiobooks. We have things called Wonder Books at the library that have the audiobook attached. So you just push a button and the child can read along. They're experiencing fluency and how reading should sound when it's being done well. And that is also another really important part of reading. Reading together and talking about what you read is the number one thing you can do. And I'm gonna grab a book. It will show you. I'm gonna stop sharing. It's gonna show you. You can show your child how a book works. So if you give them a book, you show them a book. You can point out what a title is, running your finger below words every once in a while you are reading allows the child to connect in their head that you are saying what you're underlining. Little poems for tiny ears. It lets them click that know that is print, that has meaning, that you are reading it. You can show them the author. Someone wrote the words. The illustrator. Someone drew the pictures. You can show them that in English, we read from left to right. The book faces this way. The book opens and you turn the page and we read it this way. These are all things that a child needs to know before they start reading. When you get an older kid, we sometimes will do this in story times, and we'll come up and we'll have the book like this. We'll start reading, and the kids will be like, "That's upside down." We're teaching them how to be aware of how print works, how books work, and that's really important to do together. Reading encourages imaginative thinking. It teaches kids that stories have a structure to them. They have a beginning, they have a middle, they have an end. Shared reading is a wonderful way to bond. I was recently at a NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit, and talking to parents about how important it is for bonding, especially when a baby is in the hospital. That reading is really a good way to get a connection with an especially young child. And a child's interest in reading is an important indicator of how well they're going to read. So again, we want to read books that they like, that they find fun, that maybe incorporate movement, that that they can continue to play while you're reading, so that the idea of reading is something enjoyable to them. That's why we don't want over pressuring kids to sit down and listen every single second, because then they're going to already be turned off to reading and to learning. So that is something that is also really important when you're talking about reading together. So remember, learning vocabulary is important to being able to read later. And something that is very interesting is that books have richer language than everyday conversation. And I'm going to show you an example of this too. So this is another Dolly Parton book. Depending on your child's age, you might already have it or might be getting it in the future. It's called The Home Builders. And the language in here: nibble and gnaw, explore and keep. So you can show them the picture and say, he's nibbling on the branch. That's small little bites. That's what nibbling means. Even, words don't have to be big to be unusual. You can say, mole pup slumber, wee bees swarm in the air. What does swarm mean? There's an example, wee eaglets stare. Wee means little. It's a real short word, but it's something that's unusual for children. So, use the books that you have in your home to really learn about unfamiliar words, explain it while you're reading. There's a temptation sometimes, I think, to put in a word that they already know instead that means the same thing, so they get the meaning of the book. Try to help them learn what a word means, what an unusual word means. My mom was a third and fourth grade teacher, and she always said, if she didn't know the meaning of a word, or she didn't know an answer to something, she'd say, let's look it up together. And showing that you are continuing to learn. If there's a vocabulary word, there's some things in here that are unusual. There's a vocabulary word that you don't know. Showing a child that you have to look something up and that you can learn something together is really powerful. So, use books to help children learn unfamiliar words. Keep that going. Knowing more words helps them learn more easily. And now, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about characteristics of good books for children of different ages. Now, if you're getting the Dolly Parton books, they are matched to your child's age. So you should be getting books that are at a good appropriate age for them at whatever age they're at. When you walk into a library or you're going into a bookstore, what are you looking for? So babies, and by babies, I mean birth to 18 months. For the youngest babies, 6 months and under, you're really going to look for baby faces or black and white or bright colors. Baby's eyes are not fully developed. This is something that baby can see really well, and so they'll have more interest in it. You'll see sometimes it's called a high contrast book, and it's all in black and white. Bright colors can do a similar thing, but it's all in black and white. So you'll see these little board books in the board book section at the library. These are the best for really young babies. I love this book. This is the tummy time book. So babies, 3-4 months, and they're doing tummy time, which they're laying them on their stomach and practicing so that they can lift up their head. You can put this down flat. It folds out like an accordion, and you can put this down flat, and baby can look at the different pictures and be interested in the pictures during their tummy time. So this is a really fun book that I like. I had mentioned babies also really like looking at other babies or toddlers. So, having faces of babies and of kids, they're very interested in looking at faces. You can also just show them a mirror. They'll be fascinated by it. Bright colors. So you have, can you guess with animal sounds? And you have truly bright colors that you can talk to, that you can talk about and see these simple images that are great for babies. And then you're also going to be looking at just really short books. Mine, 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 yours is a great example. Not a whole lot of words. I mean, over, under, something simple like that. And this is teaching math concepts too. This directional things like over and under. And that is something that you can put the book over them, under the head, and kind of let them understand it. So this is a great book for a very young child. So toddlers, so we're talking 18 months to about 3 years. You can, again, still like really brightly colored pictures. You're looking for books that have about 1 to 2 sentences on a page and that have it very easy to follow story time, a storyline. Another thing that you might consider is shapes. So shapes are the first step in recognizing letters. Because if you look, shapes have their sticks, there's circles, there's squares, there's curves. So in order to be able to recognize, there's like a triangle, and A is a triangle. So being able to recognize shapes helps children then be able to recognize letters. So, a book like Corduroy's Shapes, where we're looking for all the squares you can find on this page, is a really great thing to start with a young toddler. How many triangles can you find? Do you see any circles? Do you see any squares? So that's a great thing to do with toddlers. And then just showing, a relatively simple, I'm an ice cream kid is all that it says on that page. And this just has a couple sentences on it. This would be appropriate for that toddler age. As they get older, as they hit 3, 4, and 5, then you can really get into the longer books. And I have a couple examples here. How do we say I love you? So this is a much more complicated book that has even some different languages besides English in it. But as you can see, the font is smaller. In kids' books, it really is. How big the print is can tell you if it's for a younger or an older child. It really does do that. And so, you're seeing many more words on that page in a smaller font. Also, another great book, you can start really looking at ABCs. This book I like a lot because you have, not only do you have the ABCs, but it gives you a lot of vocabulary. Architect, sketch in biochemist, like these are unusual words. Computer software designer, but you're seeing the letter. So there's a lot of letter recognition. And that's when you're getting to that 4 and 5 age, that's when you're beyond the shapes and should be looking at the letters. So those are just, some examples of books that might be handy for you to have with different age groups. And hopefully that's helpful. And always feel free to ask a librarian about it, because we love to do that type of thing. I'm going to see if this will actually share. When I did that, I'm going to stop it real quickly and share again, because I don't think I do have share sound. Very good. So this is a woman who is reading a wordless book with a little girl. And I forgot to grab the right one for, I'm going to stop this and share the next one. I forgot to load this video. My apologies. I had loaded the other one and forgot to load this one.
What's this?
What is that?
I don't know.
That's a bear. What kind of bear is that?
A big bear.
A big bear? It's a polar bear. Is he eating too?
Yeah.
What's he eating?
A lollipop.
A lollipop? Looks like it could be maybe that, or a popsicle.
That bear's eating fishies.
Yeah.
Why are they eating fishies?
Because bears like to eat fish. They think they're yummy.
Why yelling?
Why do you think?
Because he wants the mouse.
He wants the mouse? What's the mouse going to do?
And it's gonna put up the tree.
He's going to go up the tree. What was he successful in doing?
Taking the string off.
Yeah, he took the strings off.
Okay, so that was really a very strong example, and let me exit it so I don't do what I did the last time and have more sound come. But that is a really good example of how to use a book, not only for reading, but also for conversation. We were talking, about using a book for conversation, and that was a really excellent way of, a lot of open-ended questions, a lot of her asking the child to predict what they thought was going to happen next or what was happening on the page, inviting the child to make observations and to say things about the story and the pictures, and retelling the story. You can have a child, you read The Lion and the Mouse and they learn that story. If you have like a stuffed lion or a stuffed mouse, you can retell the story with puppets or with toys or anything like that, then that's a much higher level thing that you are doing with that child. They not only are listening, but they're also creating the story, retelling the story, showing that they know how a story works. And that is something that they're going to need to understand what they're reading. So again, reading and having kids participate in the reading is something that is really, really important and will help your child a lot in getting ready to learn how to read. Now we're going to go on to the one that has almost become my favorite to talk about, and that is writing. Reading and writing, they go together. They both represent spoken words and communication. So if once a child starts writing and they understand that they can communicate through that, then they understand what the purpose of reading is. So they really work together, and they become aware of printed letters. The printed letters stand for spoken words through writing. When they see print used in their daily lives, point out signs. It's Trevisano family lore that I read my first word at about 2.5, 3 years old from the car seat while I was driving down a road, and I yelled out pizza because I saw a sign that said pizza. Now, I think the two Z's gave it away. It's a very unusual looking word, but a kid can recognize stuff from a very young age if they're pointed out that means something in print. And they develop, they understand the purpose of reading because they can write. So what the reason that this has become one of my favorite things to talk about is that we work with an occupational therapist for our kindergarten club program, and that's someone who helps children when they have physical needs that have to do with learning. And she is seeing so many children not be ready to write when they start kindergarten. And I am not someone who is anti-screen or anti-tablet. I have my phone. I love my phone. I love my iPad. I actually used to be a television producer. I am not someone and it's unreasonable to think that a child is not going to have screen time. But we need all things in moderation, right? And so what happens when a child is given this to play with more than anything else is that they're simply doing this with their fingers. And I did not understand until speaking to this expert that the strength of the muscles in the fingers have to be developed by a young child in order for them to be ready to write. And that is not happening in a lot of our kids. So when a child is old enough to grasp one of those thick crayons or thick markers, when they're like, 1.5 or 2, give them that. Give them paper to write on. Have them start to develop that, we call it a pincher move, so that they're able to hold the writing instrument, okay, so that they can do that in the future. So those thick crayons are for the younger child. As a child gets to be 4 or 5, we want to give them the typical sized pencil and crayon. because they have to be able to refine that movement a little bit further. And so that's something that you can really do when it comes to writing. And this is what you're going to see, the 4 different stages of writing. So in the first one, the very youngest child is just going to make marks. They're just going to draw like this. They're not making anything. They're just marking. Then they grow a little bit. They become a little bit more sophisticated. They're able to make different shapes. As you see, there's no neck. There's like legs coming out of the head in the drawing and writing part, but they're able to make something that you can recognize a face. Then they go into name writing. Again, your child's the first letter of their first name and their name, most important letters to them initially. And as you can see, this drawing actually has a body. And then you get to word writing. And if you're looking at the words, I make a castle, make MEK, castle, KASOL. That is, how they're hearing it. And that actually is that's a wonderful way that they're able to spell it out. They're hearing those sounds correctly. It's just that English is a complicated language, but they're doing it there. So anything that you can do, and writing can go along with talking as well, right? So I make a castle, you can say, you can ask them about the picture, try to have them tell a story about the picture. So that's building their ability to have a conversation. You can do a lot of different things when it comes to this. So what I'm trying to tell people is that from a young age, try to start doing things that develop hand muscles and fine motor skills. So this is, play with markers, scissors. The number one thing that kindergarten teachers, we talked to a bunch of kindergarten teachers to find out what they were interested in kids knowing before they came into kindergarten. Opening snacks. If you think about a teacher that has 20 kids and everybody needs them to open up the snacks, you know why they say that. Zippering and buttoning, and scissors. So allow the child to rip paper, allow them to cut with scissors when they get to about age 3. They can, allow them to have chalk, bubbles, because you have to dip that in. It's a pincher move. Tongs, tweezers, Play-Doh. Play-Doh helps them develop the strength that they have. And finger plays. We do the itsy bitsy spider. That's a fun thing. It's at the midline. So we're talking about crossing the midline, but it also has to do with the fine motor skills. And so I am going to round up now. The last of the 5 things is play. This is not the least. Play, you might have heard, it's called the work of childhood. That's something that I think Fred Rogers said. And it is one of the most important ways that the children learn literacy skills, but also learn social emotional skills, being able to regulate, sharing, learning how to share. It's a way you have to learn to negotiate life, right? Learning social skills, how to be around other people, be around other children. These are all different things that you learn through play. They also learn symbolic thought. So so this is my phone, but what if you have a flat block and a child takes that flat block and puts it to their ear and pretends that it's a phone? Well, they're learning that can be a symbol of a phone. And what is reading but looking at symbols on a page and pretending that says playing, that says children, that has a meaning. So they're learning how to think symbolically through play. You don't need expensive toys to play. That is not something that you need to do. The simpler the toy, the richer the play. Blocks, easy puzzles, pot and pan to make an instrument. Those are much richer than something that you push a button and it plays something. There's more imagination that occurs through play when it is something simple. And there is different levels of play. The youngest children watch other people play. They might hang out by you and be shy. That is the first step of playing. Kids then play independently by themselves. They might then, the next step, play next to someone and kind of look at them that they want to play to themselves. Then there's like really easy, simple play between 2 people. And then you get the most complicated play, which we want to see around age 4 or 5, which is when they come up with an idea, a game, a role playing. They say, you're the doctor, I'm the patient, you're the mom, I'm the baby. And they come up with these big elaborate schemes. So they learn that at different rates, but they also learn it through exposure. So playing is very important. Playing with your kids, get on the ground, sit on the floor with them, and play with them. Bring them to places where they can play with other children. They will develop their language through this naturally, very easily. It helps them develop narrative skills. They might even make up a story that they're playing. It gives them a sense of accomplishment, self-confidence, motivates them to try new experiences, new toys. And so just try to really let the child lead, let them show you what they're interested in playing with and how they're interested in using the toy to play. It allows them to make decisions. These are all really, really important things that playing does. And our libraries are here to help. Just wanted to let you know about a few things that are happening in our libraries. Of course, there are story times. There are music-based story time type programs called Music and Movement. There are playtimes. We have playtimes at every single one of our branches in Cuyahoga County Public Libraries. They are either called Baby Club, or Play, Learn, and Grow. They are 5-week sessions that every branch does twice a year. So no matter which one you live closest to, 2 times a year, for 5 weeks at a time, they will have these playtimes. If you happen to live close enough to our Garfield or South Euclid Lyndhurst branches, we have ongoing playtimes there twice a week, one in the evening and one in the morning. Ongoing playtimes that kids, we are seeing such growth in children who come to that regularly. We are seeing play that is sharing is something that doesn't typically happen until you're about 5. It just doesn't. We are seeing 1.5-year-olds who come regularly beginning to share without being prompted. And that is only because of exposure. And, some kids will do that earlier than others, but it's because they have the opportunity to play with a bunch of other kids on a regular basis. We have toys in our library. We have toys that you can take home. This is something you have to go on our website to order, and then you can pick it up at any one of our branches. We have kindergarten readiness programs, especially if your child is starting kindergarten in August and has not had a preschool class, has not been in a classroom setting. Please email me. My email's on the next page, and get into our kindergarten club program. We have kindergarten readiness for even kids who have been in preschool as well. We also, and I just see this as a typo, my apologies, it's 1,000 books before kindergarten, not 100 books before kindergarten. We have that program here where you can track how many books you read, and you can read the same book over and over again. That's also another thing that's really good for children because they start to memorize the book and they can tell it back to you real easily. But we have that in our libraries, and you can get little incentives along the way. So I know I'm at the time, but I am happy to stay and answer questions if you have any.
Maria, that was so great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So much wonderful information, and it's all information I've told to families and educators myself when I was teaching kindergarten and preschool, but you did it so well. You melded it all together. I hope everyone agrees with me. It was very absorbable, I hope, and giving you a lot that you can take with you. And if you're already doing all of this, then you can, feel affirmed. So I want to be respectful of all of our time. So if you have an urgent question, you can put it in the chat, but I was sort of hoping we'd end. I think a lot of people are logging off. It's 7:30. So you can always email me questions, and maybe we can do mini video answers too that we could share with families in our emails.
I left my email up. I left my email up here.
Great.
So that's why I shared it again, so that if anyone has a question, you can even email me.
And likewise, me too. So, and I just remember, children have, receptive language before they can talk themselves. So Maria made it so clear of why it's so important that you do that serve and return and bathe them in language. She said, feed them words. I say, bathe them in language. And there were things I was thinking about, but yeah, she made the point too. I just want to reiterate, keep reading aloud to them even after they've learned to read for themselves, because as you can read to them maybe at a slightly higher level, or if you want to advance your own reading, there's places you can get help. The Cuyahoga County Public Library has places for you to get help with your own reading if you want that. And ask those librarians for help finding books about topics that interest your child in the nonfiction section, or otherwise, like nonfiction books are great to feed them more vocabulary. My son, and she talked about how children, there's this wide range of normal development. So I had a child who at like under 2 years old could sit there and have me read to him for 2 hours straight, like very much more advanced books. He was so interested in trains. I also fed his interest. So, but that was very unusual. I was a preschool teacher. I can tell you that's highly unusual. But we just want to feed their interest. What's that?
Yeah, but nonfiction. Thank you for bringing up nonfiction, because I had it in there, and then as I was getting faster, I was like, I'm talking too much. But it is a lot of times kids say, or people say that my child isn't interested in reading. They might not be interested in reading fiction. They might have an interest in real life that you can turn into an interest in books by going into the nonfiction area.
Exactly. Like, so if they're interested in animals, or if that armadillo is really piquing their curiosity in Goodnight Gorilla, or the gorilla is, you can get books out of the library and learn more about those topics: machines, plants, animals. I mean, my son became passionate about a number of different areas and sort of became an expert. He would be teaching adults vocabulary about cetaceans, which are sea mammal, dolphins and whales. And he knew about every variety of penguin. He knew.
I love it.
I maybe shouldn't talk too much about him. Anyway, he's 19 now, but we want to feed their curiosity and their interest. Like Maria said, they're little sponges. So anyway, I'm looking, and I just see things in the chat. So I think, Maria, you were so thorough, but also so passionate and engaging. I really enjoyed it, even though, I have some expertise here too. So it's just,
Oh, thanks.
glad you all joined us. Please
I had
fill out
fun
the
doing
survey.
it.
Great. It was excellent, I think. So, and I look forward to people being able to watch the video. Wait, I'm just going to read a couple chats. Oh, okay. Someone said, thank you. Great information. Thank you so much. Sorry, my cat is messing me up. We are an imagination library. We like old rock. Yeah, isn't that great? And just like my brother, I really love how diverse the books are. Both my kids are on the spectrum. They don't read or talk yet, but I believe reading will help them in the long run. Absolutely. And getting, yes, you can read while your child is doing other things. This is from someone with a 1-year-old whose child is eating. That's why they make board books and cloth books and, the other cleanable books. That is totally developmentally appropriate, but you can keep reading the words even if they're doing something else, or, you don't put pressure on. Don't stress about it. As Maria said, you want it to be fun. And you could just use the words in those books to use with them later, another time, or,
give them one book to eat and another book to read.
Yeah, and there's some that are interactive, like where is your nose, or pat a cake. You can use those to do those little activities with them another time. So don't expect a lot. Their attention span is going to be very, very short at one. But the more you
our
do
baby
it,
story times are mainly rhymes. So
yeah,
that's something that you can, and the indestructible books. Hi, Amanda. They are truly indestructible. I had at one of our playtimes, they're not quite cloth, they're not quite paper. They have this unusual thing. And they just, the kid was crinkling and doing everything, and it wasn't ripping. It was amazing.
Yeah, and then and again, you can be bathing them in language at other times during your routine, but maybe use some of the books that you get if they teach you the rhymes. If you've forgotten some of the nursery rhymes or some of the songs, you know, you can incorporate those later. And then maybe if that's familiar to the child and you read it to the book, they'll get interested. So yeah, just give it time. They go through stages. And with the writing, they're putting their ideas on paper. They're going to go through these stages. But if they don't have an opportunity to experiment and practice with just scribbling, etc., they're not going to, it's going to be harder for them to develop. So just like to learn how to walk, they needed to first lift up their head and then, you know, they needed to crawl, sit up, toddle, you know, they go through all those stages. They needed time to practice that. If we kept them in a car seat the whole time, they'd never develop the muscles and the ability. So that the same goes with writing. So you just want to give them opportunities to experiment, put their thoughts on paper, and they'll go through these stages. And you want to just accept, you know, their efforts. So anyway, Maria, thank you. Again, I'm gonna let us say good night in a moment, but thanks all of you for joining us, and spread the word to your friends and family about what you learned.
Yes, thank you for spending time, whether you're doing it live or you're watching it later. I appreciate that everyone's really busy. So if you're listening, I truly appreciate it.
Great. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a good night.